You've been warned. Once I talk, I talk. Normally my other half flags me out after about 20 minutes. He goes, yeah. So today what I wanted to speak about was about, let's bring it back home. The world is on its head, everything is crazy, everything is shouting, everyone is shouting, and there's the media, and there's rules, and there's regulations. But what all of that does is, it brings our attention to the outside. It takes it away from where it should be, and that's the inside. Our inner voice, our connectedness, our soul saying, we got this. The outside is in turmoil. Only if we match it is the rest of us in turmoil. So this is about saying, let's bring it home. Let's stop listening too much to the outside and let's connect again with the inside. Let's start to stand still again instead of running with the masses and with the media and with the panic. And it's so easy to get caught in that because it is literally stuffed down our orifices at every corner. It is everywhere, and there is fear. And fear is powerful, and panic is powerful, and it's existential, which makes us 10 times more powerful. And all of that brings us the furthest away from being connected with that voice, with that knowing that we like, but we are part of the universe. We are all that. We are okay. On some level, we've chosen that. And we wouldn't be okay and we wouldn't be here if we wouldn't be able to somehow integrate that into our growth game. But we need to look at the right side of the equation. Everybody always speaks about balance. But I always say the oldest battle in the world is not good against evil, but it's love against fear. And right now, love is the little timid voice in between all that noise out there. Like, do this, don't do that, you can't do this, everybody's dying, everybody's dropping dead. It's all of that, what you don't do, what we are not. And fear-mongering literally changes our cell and DNA. It makes us literally sick. That's the oxymoron about the so-called pandemics, or any kind of illness for that matter. They give it names, they hype it up, they cause fear, they rattle our cages with our fundamentals, incomes and all of that. And then people start looking outside. They call it sheeple. I don't really like the word because that would actually mean there was never ever own thinking, never ever own knowing, but fear overruns it. And is it sheeple? It's like, depending on what's at stake, it's easy to run with that. But this is where we need to bring it back in and say, like, I understand there is fear, but I will consciously not be part of that. I understand there's a so-called pandemic. Pandemic of what is another story, but there is a pandemic. But let's call it the pandemic of fear, because that is really what is raging out there. They're playing it out in the health sector, they're playing it out in the economy, if they're playing it out at the pharmaceutical companies, it doesn't matter. The pandemic is there. It comes in many forms. But the worst about it, it gets us disconnected from us, ourselves, the universe, and what's our birthright and what we've been born with, which is love. Our natural state of being is love, not fear. Fear is learned. Fear is conditioned. Fear is what we actually learn to adapt to integrate. And it can only exist, and that's the good part about fear in anything. Nothing can exist unless we co-create, allow, or feed it. And the moment we kind of like, just stop this, that's why we need to start standing still. Because as long as we go with this wave, it's hard to say like, whoa, hold it. There's this huge wave, but I don't actually know if the sand might be half a meter underneath me or 200 meters underneath because I haven't put my feet down yet. I might be that far from the beach, or I might be in the middle of the ocean. I haven't even checked because I believe I'm in the wave. I believe I'm drowning. Have I checked? No. Have I linked in with that? No. We don't even know what we trust out there anymore because nothing can be trusted. Or everything is a version of something or someone. It might even be true for some, but it might not be yours. No reality is wrong. Does not mean all realities are yours at all. This is about bringing it home. Especially when the outer world is chaos, we need to start becoming still. So this is about choices and awareness and saying, before I go and kind of like, you can't do this, you have to wear the mask here, you can't do it there, you can send the kids here, you can't send it there, you can't eat that, you can't take this vitamin, you have to take this kind of thing. Stand still and breathe and reconnect with who you really are. And this is literally the universe in motion in a 3D body. John Hoover, the spiritual teacher, calls it the meat suit because that's what it is. And it's one suit, and we have one in every lifetime. But what it really is, it's the vehicle. And we got too concentrated and too focused on what the vehicle is allowed to do or not, that we actually forgot about the driver, us. It's like having this most beautiful car. If you have a shitty driver, the car is going to do jack all for you, or not for long, let's put it that way. So it's all good and nice looking after the car, and of course we need to look after it. But if you have really lousy driving skills or have no idea how to look after that car, guess what's going to happen? The best Ferrari is going to rust away and the backstory is going to be wrapped around the next tree. Ultimately, it's not about that. That's just like we need to bring it back home. Always say, all the panel beating in the world ain't going to help if we do not adjust to and reconnect with what we are. We are perfect human beings, well, perfect souls in a human body. And we need to remind ourselves of that. We are love in motion. And we started questioning all of it. And it's okay to question it, but then we adjust again, not to let it run away with you. So right now we need to make the conscious choice that, find out where are we at. Am I running with fear or am I running with, it's actually going to be okay. Outside might not be ideal, but you know what? That's okay because everything is neutral until I attach something with it. As many people as having a horrible experience right now, just as many are having the best time of their life. And I'm not meaning they're some throwing parties, but I mean some are thriving. Because why? Because they had less resistance to it. They had the so-called gift of the gap. Some had to close their companies, others made millions. It's like everything is neutral. It comes to a point nowadays when somebody is not doing bad, they're feeling bad about saying so. Because there is pandemic guilt. If I'm not suffering, I can't not suffer. So when someone asks, how are you doing? I'm actually really doing well. And you get like, are you kidding? It's a pandemic. You're not supposed to be doing well. You're supposed to be somehow suffering, at least be a little bit sick. It's like, no, but it does not mean I don't have compassion for others. But how does the pandemic or the next person actually benefit from me not being well? Wouldn't we need more higher energies? The more balanced people we have and balanced environments we have, the more it feeds the whole thing in the right way instead of bringing it down. But don't you dare to say that you're not doing well, or that you're not bad, that you're not somehow suffering, that you didn't lose your last cent, and that you're not having at least depression. That's like, or anxious. One of those two, because they go hand in hand. And it's just like, no. We need to start accepting and actually applauding in others. To say like, I'm so happy that you could maintain that. I'm so happy that you are in that spot. And I want to consciously choose not be in the same spot like you, but to adjust mine. And it does not mean that the circumstances need to be perfect, but I choose to be okay within the circumstances that are presented. Nothing is doomsday unless I decide it is. And nothing is perfect unless I decide it is. Everything is neutral. And we're not even aware how we interact with it. We're not even aware how we changed our vocabulary. I deal a lot with people. And for me, it's quite interesting to see some, it's like, oh no, there's a pandemic, it's this and that. Everything's pandemic. People don't talk about anything else anymore. It's like nothing else exists. It's like everything is linked to this pandemic. So it's like we're linking our entire life to an outside factor where some people are playing an international game, and that now defines who we are, how we feel, and what we pass on. Like, excuse me, this is the most unreliable source you can possibly link into. But we gave them the power to run our lives, our inner and outer lives. And this is like, I'm sorry, it's in the most unreliable hands, permission removed. You might be able to make some decisions out there, but this is where it ends. Permission removed to get here. You might tell me you give me a fine if I don't have a mask in public. Well, that's just your thing. But what I do with how I fill the spaces in between, that's my choice. When I say to people, now you need to have more fun. You need to get out. You're like, oh, there's a pandemic. And there was a war in Syria, and there was this, and there was that. And before we had the pandemic, irrespective of wars in other places, you had fun because you've chosen to have fun. The space is the same. You've chosen to fill it with doomsday because the world stuffs it down your throat at the moment, and you've started adapting to it. You let the world decide which energy you run, that you bring in your family, that you bring into your work, that you bring. Half of us are not sleeping anymore because we worry about something that we A, didn't create, B, have no influence in, and C, who knows what they get up to tomorrow. Instead of saying, let me just align with what I can align, where my control is, where my power is. It's insanity. And we are volunteering, and we don't even know it. So this is where we need to get conscious again. We need to link, and there has always been trouble in this world. It's full of people. It's got to be trouble. There's got to be trouble. But there's people, there's going to be trouble. There's always some causing something. And if we wouldn't have some people causing trouble, it wouldn't have that much room to grow. If we don't get shaken up every now and then, we would not get to the extent of our own growth game either. And we got to get uncomfortable at times in order to kind of like step out of certain comfort zones. I don't even know why they call it comfort zones, because they're uncomfortable 90% of the time. They're just repeated. And we like them, and I'm going to keep it because I kept it for the last 20 years, and I know it, and I named it, I have a name tag on it. It's like, but ultimately, 80% of people who lost their jobs, when I asked them, let's be honest, before you lost your job, you hated it for years. Yeah, but I wanted to decide. The universe gave you about 5 years to decide, and you didn't. So, and I'm not saying serves you right. That's not the point. But we adjust that all the time. Oh, my husband or wife left because of COVID. Whoa. So you were blissfully happy until a pandemic decided to make a few people sick, and then husband or wife walked off because it didn't like Rona. I think we need to be honest with ourselves. What was taken away was our distractions. Rona is an accelerator. I like Rona as in what it stands for. Because she swooped in and says, okay guys, all this sitting on the fence, this whole, as long as I have that, I don't deal with this, and as long as that, I don't look at that, and I'm actually just having layers of not really dealing with my stuff, who I am. How often did you hear people say, oh, as long as I can have lunch with the girls, I'm putting up with my husband? Or, those kind of things. I go to yoga 4 times a week, I'm going to kill my children. It's like, oh, there was no yoga anymore. There was no lunch with the girls anymore. There was no playing golf for the guys, and there was no going fishing. So now I have to deal with those people and know where to run. And then it was Rona. So this is like, Rona was an accelerator. Totally. Because we had to deal. It was universal from an energetic point of view. 2020 with Rona, she was the cherry on the top. It was a universal spring cleaning year, and it's done exactly that. Because if we don't have anywhere to hide, guess what comes out? The core of it all. It's not good, it's not bad, it just is, and we had to deal with it. That's what it is. We had to be honest with ourselves. And when we were over the first load of... It's all about control. It's like about controlling the outer. It's about controlling the outer, that they live a life and act and talk and do things that it suits us, instead of us saying like, it doesn't really matter what they do or don't do, because I can adjust and align myself with what I want. But it's more work, so I'd rather train the circus. Why are you in the circus? But that's who we are, and we had to have fundamental changes in it. It's not just about the official pandemic. It's a spring cleaning. And it's an internal sprinkling and say, let's stop being human doers and let's start being human beings for a change again. Because that's where we are at. It's the conscious choice, but I'm not choosing fear. I'm actually choosing love. And it comes in so many ways. It comes like as I'm choosing connectedness. I'm not going with the division. And even if you disagree with if I wear masks or not, that's okay. I do not have to reject you as a person. We can have our own opinions, of course. We have millions of those. We're people, and we change them every 2 minutes. And that's okay. That's part of who we are, but it doesn't make anybody else wrong. This is this whole, you have to think like me, I have to think like you, I have to do jack all unless I volunteer it. If it gets me out of my balance, then it ain't mine. Doesn't make yours good, mine bad, it just is. Everything is neutral. But we need to get away from trying to you need to think like Heike thinks. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you. No, there isn't. It's just not Heike's. And that's okay. It's more than okay. But then we still within that need to choose kindness. I fully accept that you are in that space, and I hope it works for you. Dan, but we can't do that because we psychologically, or we find it difficult because psychologically, when we have a fear thing, we're looking for backup. Because it's like, no, she can't do that. And then I find other people who think like that, and 5 of us say like, how dare you do that? Didn't you read the stats? And I've become, internet is like a slaughter field. Oh my word. It's like, and people are aggro, and they're, because it's fear. And even people that you know that are normally very reasonable, nice, loving people, fear is powerful and it switches off brain cells, I'm telling you. There are normal people which are, at the normal circumstances, the most lovely people. Because the fear game is so high, it literally activates a different part of our brain and overruns their normal logic. So where you go like, I don't know what happened to that person, he's highly intelligent, normally really, I don't know how these two come together because fear overruns that part of the brain. It does. It literally does that. And was that it's like, let's not judge. Because judgment, again, it changes the whole thing. There's the pros and the cons. I don't have to be on either side. It's like you have to take a side. Says who? I have to volunteer that. You're either pro and con. No, I'm not. Might work for me today, might not work for me tomorrow. It's called growth. It's this whole flow thing. Only because I didn't like bananas when I was 10 does not mean I don't like them when I'm 30. Same thing. Nobody holds you to that. It's called growth. And people say, but it's always been that way. Well, we used to sleep in caves. How did that go down? So we need to allow ourselves and others to do that. And we can determine for our space what we allow in it or not, but we cannot determine it for the rest. We need to bring it home. And we need to do that with kindness. And it is okay. Fear is powerful. We cannot judge the person that's run by fear at the moment. Sometimes it's better to step back and just hold the space. And sometimes we can just flood it with some kindness and it will bring some grounding. It depends. But it's not for us to judge it. And that is difficult at the moment. Also, we need to consciously choose groundedness because panic runs the world. Panic has you all over. It hasn't got you here and now. People don't pay attention anymore. People they're constantly ahead. If they're in avoidance mode. And I need to watch that because then that happens and this is ahead in time. They're not in the here and the now, and we can't be aware when we are ahead in time. If the government doesn't change that, that means that I can't spend this here, I can't send the kids there, so I can't do that. It's like, hello, can anybody come right here and right now? We need to bring it back. And I'm not saying ignore everything. Of course, you have to look at certain things, but don't live there. Go check it out, do your calculation, do what you need to do your budgets, whatever it is, and then get out of it and come back into the here and the now. It's exhausting. That's why so many people get sick at the moment. It ain't the good old virus. Our immune system sat down because of worry, because of exhaustion, because of fear. Fear alters our immune system first and then our DNA. besides that it activates the wrong places in the brain as well. It literally makes us sick. And then we have masks, which is also by now bringing the wrong stuff in as well. And isolation. It's the worst for us. People are not made for isolation. Having a space and a time where you disconnect and recharge, yes, but not permanent isolation. Because what happens when we're not in a good space and we isolate 24/7 by now for a year? We regurgitate what doesn't work for us, which is toxic for us, because there's nothing else coming in. It is not healthy. So it's this whole divide and conquer thing right now. So we need to choose connectedness. We need to choose being in the moment. We need to choose love. All of that is love. Love is connectedness, groundedness, awareness, closeness. And I mean, what I miss most is hugging people officially. We still do it, but not officially. But it's a kind of like, it's like when you see someone like you're conscious and you're super like, hey, how you doing? It's like, hi, how you doing? It's like, oh, freaking hell, let's meet in the other aisle. But it's like, this is who we are. That's what feeds us. So things that feed us are completely down, or you need to be a semi-criminal to do so in public. But you do what you need to do. And you need to, know that first, what it is, what you need. Because our attention is out there. We need to bring it home. It's also, let's choose kindness. Let's not get caught in on. And kindness is not just for others. It starts with us. It's our inner self-talk is horrendous. And then we still find that we're much nicer to people that we even don't like than we are to ourselves. I mean, that's back to front. And no, you don't have to like everybody. You're just not allowed to kill them, but you don't have to like everybody. It's not normal. It's not meant to be that way. Some energies will never match with yours, and that's okay. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just not yours. Done. But our inner self-talk, we keep on telling us what we are not, or what we perceive we are not. Not enough this, not good enough that, not this, not that, not that. And with others, we go like, oh, you're wonderful, you're this, you're that. We see others through the worthiness filter and ourselves, our unworthy, a perceived unworthiness filter. That's back to front. Totally back to front. We need to be aware of that. This whole kindness and embracing and it's self-love. Love starts with self-love. And no, it's not selfish. It's your fundamental basic ingredients. Because if we can give it so freely to others, then we're very often dependent on how they bring it back to us. And that then determines how we feel. Instead of saying, hey, I'm okay with myself and I've got oodles and doodles to give, do it at whatever you like. Bring it back to me, don't bring it back to me. As long as it helps you, that's what it's for. And that becomes the whole catch-22. Now I'm in a pandemic, plus my son doesn't talk to me, and I think my neighbor hates me, and I've been so nice, and I dropped cake off with them. But why are they not being? It becomes dependent on how they react with us, if we feel worthy or not. It's back to front. We've got to fill up here first. Our biggest love story should be here. But again, we have the guilt attached to it. We've got to bring it home. It all starts here, it all ends here. It all runs through here. You are your main center of everything. But that's where we spend the least time. So this is also about this whole, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the mantra Soham, which is like I'm in the universe as much as the universe is in me. And we need to remember that. The universe ain't out there. We are the universe. And we would never look at the universe and say, oh God, universe, you really got to work in a few areas here. Because that is wrong and that is wrong. You really need to up your game here. And that isn't right and that isn't right. And I mean, really, you could vibrate a bit different on that corner. We would never look at the universe like that. But that's how we talk to ourselves. Yet we are the universe in human version. Plus vice versa. Yet again, we look at the big picture and like, universe, you're awesome. Well, I suck a bit, but you're awesome. It's the same stuff. It's the exact same stuff, but we separate it. And things like pandemics and fear only works due to separation. Only, exclusively. And what does the pandemic bring? More separation. And we must stop being an active part of it. I'm not asking you to go break rules. I'm asking you to be aware where you are at, what you allow, and what you align yourself with. Anything and everything in our life can only exist, including pandemics. It doesn't matter how big or small. If we either co-create it, allow it, or feed it. That's where your power is. That's where your control is. And this is what can change the energy and the entire experience. This is what ultimately can change a pandemic around, to say like, okay, how many people did you see in initiations did you come seeing out? Should I try an English sentence? Did you see coming out of all of this, where people like really start sticking together? They started community things to help those that are having a hard time at the moment. They're starting concentrating more on the local businesses kind of things to support it. A lot of good came out of it. We need to concentrate on those things. We need to concentrate on what we do want instead of what we don't want, because what we concentrate on is what we get more of. It's the law of energy. It's the law of the universe, which we are. And this is this whole, we need to bring it home. And this is also like, we need to learn to stand still. We need to learn to not just constantly be the human doers. Let's be. Let's fill it up here with what we want, so we can bring it there. At the moment, it's an outside-in job. But love and us being here, and us being divine and human body, and us being universe is an inside-out job. And we need to fill here. We got to bring it home. So I always say to people, let's get full of ourselves. Because only if we're full of ourselves can we give in abundance. And you can never be too full of yourself. Because believe me, we don't know how the rest of the world works. We might just get full of ourselves, that we know how it works, how it fits, how it gets refit, how it gets refilled, and what we need to do to put out there what we do want and who we truly are. So for today, and hopefully for the near future, let's get full of ourselves and flood the world with that and connect with what we do want. Thank you.